When we first learn to draw, trees, leaves, foliage in general is often a real problem area. I think there's two reasons for this. The first is that we still have memories of childhood drawings of trees. And these very cartoon-like shapes that really are more symbols for trees rather than actual trees can influence the way we think and the lines that we put on the paper. The second problem we have is that when we look at our photo, we can see so many leaves, and we know in life what these are. We know that these are all individual leaves, and it can be an overwhelming dilemma to think, how do I draw this? And because we're used to thinking of drawing with lines, we end up starting to draw lines to somehow represent the leaves. But rather than being something that creates the effect of how the leaves look in our reference, but in our drawing, it ends up just becoming a pattern that we put over the whole tree canopy, often without even looking back at our reference, because this is how we draw leaves. Let me show you a better way of thinking, and therefore a much easier way of drawing. And firstly, we want to avoid this heavy cartoon-like outline for the tree. But we do want to pay attention to the silhouette edge, because silhouette edges when we draw are really important because we see them so much more readily. So instead of a line, I like to do what I call a dotted, dashed, ragged edge. Exactly the marks I use, and I think marks, not lines. I don't draw a line, I make marks. Some of them may be lines. In this case, they're more marks. And I also get a sense of how large the tree is and where it comes. Now, these dots I've just stuck all over the page won't be obvious at the end, but they're to help me guide my drawing. If I want, I can go higher. They're not prescriptive. Everything here will be hidden at the end. The trick in thinking is to not think leaves, but to think of surface. To see this big canopy as one large object that goes in and out. And because it goes in and out, there are parts of it that are in shade and parts that cast shadows, and that creates the effect of what we see. Now, we can see there's a big bunch of tree canopies that kind of come down here, and behind it, there's shade and shadow. It's very difficult to draw leaves, but it's much easier to draw shadows, and they often are what create the effect of the shape. So I want to create this edge down here. And now I'm going to start to indicate the shadow there. I'm particularly looking at dark shapes. At this point, I'm not worried about how dark I'm going to make it. I'm just trying to start to capture the overall form. It's better to think of form than shape. Shape is a two-dimensional thing. Form has 3 dimensions. Now, I look at this line coming down here. What I want to do is to create the effect. Now, in my reference, there is a great deal of variation between the different shadowed areas. Some are much darker than others. So I want to show that in the marks I make and the effect I create with the marks. So I'm drawing this bit now. So what I'm really doing is I'm trying to find the dark areas and I'm trying to draw them through my hatching. Now there are areas of darker shading and shadow, but there's also areas of lighter shading where the canopy is bending away from the light. And I want variation in my marks to reflect that as well. And if this is helpful for you, why not hit the like button? Or why not share this video with a friend who also draws and hit notifications so that you know when there are new videos available. And I would love to hear if this thinking of this technique for drawing trees is helpful for you. And I have a playlist on drawing trees and foliage and general all things plant related. So if you'd like more on this, particularly on things such as branches and smaller and larger and different trees, I'll put a link to this at the end of the video. Now the sun is coming from this direction, so generally this side of the tree will have more leaf matter that's in bright sunshine, and this side of the tree is going to have more leaf matter that has been shaded or shadowed in some way. And generally I'm wanting to reflect that in my marks. I want to create more darkness on this half than on this half. Often we draw things by negative spacing. We draw the spaces between. So I'm drawing the spaces between these trunks by drawing in the foliage on the far side, which is just dark shadow. I hope you have a go drawing this tree, but if you do, don't draw along with me, because that way you'll end up looking at my marks and just copying them. What you want to learn to do is to observe the reference and engage in that creative process of working out what sort of marks to make to capture that effect. The best way to do this is to watch my video, listen to what I say, understand what I say, put my drawing away, and then use the same reference to put that into practice. And then you can compare your drawing with my drawing afterwards, and that may help give you some future direction for your next tree. You'll notice I do my lines for the darkness on the trunks in the other direction. That helps them to look different from all of these more vertical lines, and that makes it easier for our brain to work out what's happening. It also, in my mind, helps reflect the cylindrical shape of these trunks. With these lines, I'm trying to give a sense of the canopies of leaves curving inwards. So this has taken me about 15 minutes in real time, and I think at a glance it is an effective representation of this tree. Now, if we want to take this drawing further, the important thing is not to go too far. Every mark I put on my paper stays, so I don't want to cover up all of these white spaces that I've left. But I do think I want to put a little more subtlety into the effect of lights and darks, which you'll often hear artists talk about as the values, the lights and darks. I want a few more darks and a few more lights and a few more mid-tones created. But I don't want to cover up the whites I've got particularly. So I'll just put another couple of minutes into this. And the important thing is to keep looking at my reference. The danger at this stage is that for some reason I start to just draw in the tree without looking at my reference. And the trouble is, that means I'm drawing it from my imagination and my memory of trees. And unfortunately, it can take me to this place with my marks. And for an extra 4 minutes, we develop our tree canopy a bit better. And of course, exactly what marks I make, exactly what silhouette edge I create, depends on my reference. It's not that this is the way we draw a tree, but this is the sort of way, the thinking that precedes the marks on the paper, and the sort of marks I would put on the paper to capture the effect of this particular tree. The size of the tree, the size of the leaves, the way the leaves hang on the tree, the distance we are from the tree, the size of our drawing. These are all things that will probably affect the sorts of marks we make on our paper, and therefore the way the tree looks. If this isn't a way that you've thought about drawing trees or drawn trees before, why not give it a go? I'll post this reference on my channel community page. Please let me know in the comments how you find this tree drawing technique if you haven't used it before. G'day, I'm Travers. Trees are often a problem for beginners at drawing, but they're a fantastic subject and they are everywhere. So we might as well learn how we can capture the effect of a tree in our drawings right at the beginning of our drawing journey. But whatever you draw, however you draw it, trees or not, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.